wake up every morning at 6:13 a.m., not 6 a.m., not 6:15 a.m. Always. 6:13. It's still dark outside, the kind of dark that feels thicker than night should be. The air in my room is always a little too still, as if something is holding its breath. I never check the corners, not anymore. There's a routine to everything. Toothbrush on the left side of the sink, socks before pants, same cereal, same cup, same silence. The world moves around me like it's stuck on a track. The people I talk to, they speak in patterns, smile at the right times, nod when expected. But none of them know. None of them feel it. That thing, always just outside my vision. I don't talk about it. I don't write about it. I don't even let myself think about it too clearly. But I know it's there. And worse, it knows I know. It started when I was 15. I was brushing my teeth in the upstairs bathroom and I felt it. Not a noise, not a breeze, just that weight. The sense that the air behind me was wrong. I glanced in the mirror just for a second, and behind me, in the corner of the hallway, too far to see clearly, I saw it. Tall, thin, wrong. A shape that should have been human but wasn't. Its arms too long, dragging behind it, legs like stilts. Bare skin, gray pale with streaks of dry, rusted blood smeared along its ribs, its chest, its neck, and its face. That smile. Too wide. Lips stretched dry across its jaw like it had forgotten how to stop grinning. And the eyes, black like tar, but flickering, twitching, vibrating like candlelight trapped in a bottle. I froze. I didn't turn around. I just stared at the mirror for a moment. Then I blinked, and it was closer. Still not moving. Not exactly, but it was closer. That was when I knew. If I reacted, if I showed it that I saw it, I would die. So I finished brushing my teeth. I went to bed. I laid there, still and cold, pretending I hadn't seen it. Pretending I didn't hear the floor creak once near my bedroom door. And from that moment on, it never left. That first night, after the mirror, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Not really because I was scared, though I was. But more because I didn't want to see it again. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to roll over and find it staring back. So I laid there, still, like a corpse pretending to be asleep. And in the dark, I felt it. I don't mean in the way people feel watched. I mean, I knew it was there. Somewhere in the room, quiet, tall, grinning. It didn't breathe. It didn't shift. There were no footsteps. No sighs. But the pressure in the air, God, it was heavy. Like my entire room was underwater and the creature standing nearby was the only one who could breathe. I remember thinking, if I don't move, if I don't look, I'll be okay. It was a stupid thought. Childish. But it worked. Morning came. I sat up like nothing had happened. For days I acted like I hadn't seen it. I went to school, ate lunch, did my homework. Smiled when my mom asked if everything was okay. Laughed when my friend told a dumb joke in math class. But every now and then, out of the corner of my eye, it was there. One time, I saw it standing in the woods behind the school parking lot, motionless between two trees like it belonged there. Another time I was in my bedroom pretending to study, and when I looked at the glass of water on my desk, I saw a faint reflection behind me, too tall for the ceiling, leaning forward like it was waiting for me to notice. I never did, at least not on the outside. I didn't flinch, I didn't scream, I didn't even stop what I was doing, but inside I was screaming. I remember the day I realized what it was trying to do. It wasn't just watching, it was testing me, pushing, pressing, waiting for me to slip, waiting for me to react, waiting for a blink, a head turn, a twitch, any confirmation that I could see it. Because if I did, that would be the end of me. I wondered back then, why me? Why not the others? Were there others? Had it done this before? And the answer came years later, but the first time I felt the hint of it was in the school bathroom. I walked in just after lunch. No one else was there. My footsteps echoed, and the hum of the flickering lights above gave the place a sickly tone. And on the mirror, scratched lightly, faintly, almost invisible, a single sentence. He looked at me. That was it. No context, no name, no blood, just that. And the mirror had a tiny chip on its edge, like someone had fallen into it, or been thrown. That's when I understood. Someone else had seen it once, and they hadn't looked away. So I kept up the act, kept my expression blank, kept living my life day after day, year after year, pretending I couldn't see the tall, blood-smeared, grinning thing that followed me from street corner to school hallway to my bedroom mirror. And the more I ignored it, the more obsessed it became. 3 years. That's how long it's been. 3 years of waking up at 6:13. 3 years of pretending everything is normal, of laughing on cue, walking the same routes, blinking at the right moments, never looking directly at it. You'd think it would get easier. You'd think the fear would fade. But no. It got worse. It always gets worse. It started testing me, more directly. It didn't hide in shadows anymore. No more corners of mirrors. No more tree lines at dusk. It began standing in places I had to walk past. Places I couldn't avoid. By the mailbox. By the stairwell. In the hallway between classes. It just stood there still, unmoving, waiting for me to twitch, to blink wrong, to break. But the worst was when I was alone. When my mom left for work around 5 p.m. and wouldn't be home until nearly midnight. God, those hours stretched forever. She'd leave me food, pizza usually in the fridge, always wrapped in foil with a note. Heat it up, sweetheart. I love you. And I did. I always did, because I didn't want her to worry. But heating up pizza, it became the hardest part of my day, because it meant moving. It meant getting up, turning my back on empty rooms, on corners, on windows. It meant looking around, and that was dangerous. The kitchen was the worst. Too many angles, too many reflective surfaces, too much quiet, microwave humming, timer ticking. But underneath that, silence. That dreadful, pregnant silence. Like the house was listening, like the air was holding its breath again. I'd sit at the table with the warm plate in front of me, steam rising in lazy curls. I'd pick up the first slice and stop, because I could feel it. Not in the room, no, but close. Right behind a wall, maybe, or just outside the window, watching, grinning, waiting for me to look up, look left, look anywhere. And if I slipped, if I caught even a glimpse of those black eyes or that smile, it would know. Sometimes I'd sit there, pizza getting cold, for 20, 30 minutes. Fork frozen in my hand, not blinking, not chewing, just waiting for the weight in the air to lift. It never did. I couldn't play games anymore. Couldn't enjoy music or shows or reading, because every moment of distraction was a moment where I might slip, where I might look too fast, or catch a reflection, or react to a shadow that wasn't supposed to move. So I lived in stillness, in quiet, in this fragile, paper-thin act of pretending I was fine, pretending I didn't see the monster standing at the foot of the stairs. pretending I didn't smell that strange copper scent every time it came too close. I remember one night my mom had to do a double shift. She texted me around 10:47. "You doing okay, hon? Pizza good?" I didn't reply. Not because I didn't want to, but because I couldn't lift my hand. I couldn't look down at my phone. I couldn't break eye contact with the microwave. Because in its metal surface, I saw it. A warped shape, tall, long, standing right behind me, just at the threshold between kitchen and hallway, not moving, but watching. I held that gaze for what felt like an hour, trembling, silent, teeth clenched, not blinking, because if I blinked, it would be closer. Eventually, the microwave light clicked off. Timer finished, and the reflection vanished. But I didn't move. I just sat there, cold pizza in front of me, and cried silently, in total stillness. Because this was my life now. 3 years. 3 long years. They say if you ignore something long enough, it'll go away. But this thing, the more I ignored it, the more obsessed it became. And something told me it was starting to lose patience. The closer it gets, the harder it is to pretend. There are certain thresholds in life, moments when the air changes, and you know, without knowing how, that something has shifted forever. That moment came for me on a Tuesday. Ordinary day. Same routine. Same streets. Same faces. But something was different. It wasn't just watching anymore. It was closer. I didn't notice it at first. At the bus stop, I could feel a shape behind the bench. A shadow that didn't match the sun. In the hallway at school, just outside my peripheral vision, I saw something stretch. Like a leg bending the wrong way, then tucking back out of sight. And in the bathroom mirror, God, I saw fingertips. Long, skeletal fingers trailing along the bottom of the cabinet, gone when I turned. But I didn't react. I kept my face blank, my breath steady. I acted, because that's what this has always been, a performance. And I couldn't break character. But it kept pushing, testing my limits. At home, the pressure became unbearable. One night, while brushing my teeth, I dropped my toothbrush. It rolled under the sink cabinet, and I hesitated. Because bending down meant shifting my eyes, tilting my head. It meant risk, but I couldn't leave it there. I knew my mom would ask, and I couldn't afford to lie. She'd see it on my face. So, I crouched. Slowly, I reached under the sink, and my fingers brushed something dry, something rough, like old, cracked skin. I froze. I didn't look. I didn't scream. I just withdrew my hand and stood up. When I looked into the mirror, the toothbrush was already back in the cup, wet. It was now in places it had never been before. Inside closets, under my bed. Once I opened the fridge and saw its face pressed against the back wall. Its smile curled wider than it should have, tongue limp, blood dry across its cheek. I closed the fridge calmly, didn't flinch, didn't breathe, just waited a few seconds and reopened it. Nothing was there. But I didn't eat that night. I started losing weight, missing sleep, hallucinating. Or maybe not. Who knows anymore? One afternoon, I sat on the couch. The TV was on, but I wasn't watching. I stared at the blank wall across from me, my legs tucked tightly underneath me. And in the corner of my eye, beneath the coffee table, I saw a movement. Something low, crawling. It stayed there for hours. Just the faint, slow shifting of dry limbs across carpet. I never looked down. Not once. That night, it was in my room. I don't mean outside the window, I mean inside, behind my dresser. I could see the shadow it cast against the wall, a head that scraped the ceiling, fingers twitching, that same grin, always always the grin. I kept my back turned to it, phone in my hand, pretending to scroll. My thumb moved. My eyes did not. Eventually it crept closer. It didn't walk. It glided. No footsteps, no creaks. Just the shift of the air, the way your body knows something is nearby, even if you haven't seen it. It stood inches from me. So close I could hear the slow, sticky pull of blood peeling off its skin when it moved. So close I could smell it. Metallic. Rancid. Ancient. I sat there, motionless. My vision blurred from dryness. I hadn't blinked in nearly 10 minutes. That night I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I just lay there facing the wall, listening to it breathe behind me. And somehow, I knew it was smiling. This was no longer watching. This was haunting. It was losing patience, growing desperate. It couldn't understand why I wouldn't scream, why I wouldn't acknowledge it, why I kept pretending. It had never failed before, never gone this long without breaking someone. And the silence between us, it was starting to suffocate it. But I knew. The moment I acknowledged it, the second I looked into its eyes, it would be over. Not just my life, but the delicate wall between this thing and whatever it truly was. So I held the line. I wore the mask. I acted like nothing was wrong, even when it stood beside me in the shower, even when I woke up to find it sitting at the edge of my bed, its head tilted sideways, hands clasped in its lap like it was waiting for me to wake up. I didn't move, didn't speak, and eventually it faded into the corners again, still smiling, still watching, but not yet, reacting. How long can you lie to something that never stops watching? It started with the twitch, a small thing, the corner of my lip, a subtle tick from too many sleepless nights. But once it began, I couldn't stop it. A twitch, then a blink, a breath held too long, a crack in the glass I'd spent 3 years polishing, the first sign that I was slipping. I was brushing my teeth when I saw its reflection behind me, not just standing there, not silent, leaning, its long arms draped across the doorway, head tilted like a curious dog, watching me. The corner of its mouth pulsed. Its smile grew slightly. It knew. It had seen the twitch. I spit into the sink and stared at the drain, pretending not to notice. But my throat was dry. Too dry. And my hand was shaking. I turned off the light and walked calmly to my room. But my knees barely worked. The air in the hallway pressed in like a balloon about to burst. It was behind me. I didn't hear it. I didn't need to. I closed the bedroom door softly, slid the lock, pulled the covers over my legs like I was 7 again. The clock said 1:12 a.m., and I sat there in the dark for hours, not sleeping, just waiting. I could feel it outside the door, pressing its weight against the wood, not knocking, just resting there, patient. But I couldn't ignore it anymore. Not completely. I was slipping. The next morning, my mom asked if I was okay. She said I looked pale, tired. I said I was fine. But my voice cracked. I hadn't spoken in 3 days. That afternoon, she left for work and told me she made pizza. It was in the fridge. And then she was gone. And I was alone. I stared at the fridge for 20 minutes. The hum of the kitchen light felt louder than usual. The hallway behind me felt darker. I opened the fridge slowly and froze. There it was again, not inside this time. Number just beside it, to the left. Standing there, body arched slightly to fit beneath the ceiling, head tilted forward. That face, so dry, so stretched, so eager. And I swear to God, its eyes followed the pizza box when I pulled it out. It knew. I microwaved the slice and sat at the kitchen table. I chewed, slowly, mechanically, but my eyes kept drifting. To the hall, to the window, to the closet in the far corner of the living room where the door was open just a crack too far. I couldn't stop scanning. My brain screamed, "Don't look, don't look." But my body wouldn't listen. I dropped the pizza, not from fear, from tension. My hand just gave up. It hit the floor with a wet slap, and behind me I heard movement, not loud, just shifting, like something brushing past the wall. And for the first time in 3 years, I almost looked. My eyes darted toward the corner of the room before I stopped myself. It was too fast, too impulsive. I don't know if it saw, but I saw something else. In the reflection of the microwave door, a smile, inches behind me, long, wide, inhuman. I didn't breathe. I sat there for almost an hour, eyes forward, mouth closed, body frozen. And the entire time, I could feel it, breathing on the back of my neck, close enough to touch, close enough to taste the fear rolling off my skin. That night I didn't pretend to sleep. I just sat against the wall, arms wrapped around my knees, staring into the dark. It was inside the room again, but not in the corner this time. It stood directly in front of me. I didn't look at its face, but I could see its feet, bloodied, split open from walking too long. Its fingers twitched at its sides, almost vibrating, like it was shaking with anticipation. And I realized something had changed. It didn't just want to be seen anymore. It needed it. It had become addicted to the game. And I was losing. I hadn't eaten in 2 days. I hadn't left the house in 1. I was starting to forget how to think clearly. Every thought was just static. Every breath felt borrowed. Then yesterday, the worst thing happened. I almost called out. I stubbed my toe on the corner of my desk and my mouth opened instinctively. A grunt escaped, just a soft one. But I swear I heard it shift. Like the sound excited it. I wanted to scream, not from pain, from panic, because I can't do this much longer. My chest hurts all the time. My vision's going blurry, and the lines between waking and dreaming, they're melting. Sometimes I see it when I close my eyes. Not in a nightmare, not in a vision. Just there, waiting behind my eyelids, watching me from the inside now. I don't know how long I can keep pretending. I don't know if I want to anymore. 'Cause what's worse than dying is living like this. Every second, silent. Every moment, fake. And still it waits. Right there, behind the next blink. I always told myself every morning, don't look. That was the rule. I'd brush my teeth, tie my shoes, heat up my food, sleep, shower, pretend. I became an actor in my own life, my own house, my own skin. The moment I slipped, even slightly, I knew I'd die, so I never did. Until today. I didn't sleep well. I hadn't for weeks. The buzzing in my skull was getting louder and the silence at home made it scream. Mom was at work again. She left a note by the fridge. Pizza in the oven, just heated up. Love you. I stared at the note longer than I should have. Even it felt too loud. I sat at the kitchen table, the plate warm under my fingertips. But I wasn't eating. I couldn't eat. The walls felt wrong. The house was too still. I couldn't hear the hum of the fridge. Couldn't hear cars outside. Even my breathing felt distant, like it belonged to someone else. I picked up a slice. I lifted it to my mouth, and I felt it again. The pressure, the unreal weight of being watched, scraped into the back of my mind like nails on glass. It was somewhere in the room. I didn't need to see it. I knew it. I had always known. But I didn't look. Just like every other time. Until the plate slipped. My hand twitched. A chunk of pizza dropped to the floor. And I reacted. Instinctively. I leaned forward and turned my head toward the living room. Just a glance. Just a mistake. It was standing there. Not in the shadows. Not hiding. Right there. Tall. Towering. Wrong. Its arms nearly touched the floor, long like bent metal pipes. Its legs, too thin, bones showing through raw, cracked skin. Naked. Covered in crusted blood that flaked with every breath it took. Its smile was infinite. A grin so wide it looked like the corners of its mouth tore into its cheeks. No lips. Just stretched flesh and dark teeth. And its eyes. God. Not eyes. Windows to rot. Milky, cold, still. Like two puddles that had frozen over dead animals. And it was looking at me. I froze mid-reach. Terror broke open inside me like a crack in my ribs. My pulse vanished. My throat tightened. I felt air leave the room. I blinked. And in that blink, it was gone. No, not gone. Closer, right in front of me. It hadn't moved. It had just arrived. I didn't scream. There wasn't time. I felt my body try to run, legs twitching, lips parting. But I was made of cement. I couldn't even whisper. It leaned down, smile widening. I felt breath, heat. And then, nothing. I don't know what happened next. I don't remember pain. I don't remember sound. I was simply not there. And the monster? It stood above what was left of me, waiting, watching. Then the door creaked open. Keys rattled. "Hey, sweetheart. I'm home early." My mother. Her shoes tapped on the tile. She was humming, tired. She carried groceries. She turned the corner, and she dropped everything. The bag fell. Oranges rolled across the floor. A bottle of juice burst open like blood. She gasped, screamed. She saw me. What was left of me? Lifeless, headless, slumped in a pool of red, arms still in my lap. But she didn't see it at first, not until she looked up. Her eyes rose, slowly, and there it was, floating, above my body, its long fingers dangling like vines, its neck twisted backward, smile still stretching, eyes locked on her. She didn't move, didn't breathe. She couldn't, because something primal inside her whispered, "Don't look, don't scream, pretend you didn't see it." But now, it was too late. She had already seen, and now she's next. Because when it watches you, you pretend. And when you finally fail, even for 1 second, you're gone. I live alone now. Well, not alone. My mom moved out a few months ago to live closer to her new job, but technically it's still her house. I stayed behind, renting it out from her while I try to piece things together. I'm 23, work from home doing freelance editing, mostly videos, sometimes boring company training clips. Quiet work. And that's kind of the theme here. Quiet. The silence in this house is a different kind of silence, the kind that almost hums. My routine is simple. I wake up late, 9 or 10 most days, make coffee and sit at my desk editing until my eyes blur. I barely talk to anyone unless it's for work. DoorDash takes care of my meals. I don't leave much. It wasn't always like this. The first weird thing happened on a Wednesday. I remember because I had a Zoom call that morning. Afterward, I stood up to stretch, walked into the kitchen to grab another coffee, and caught something. Someone, in the corner of my eye through the front window. A figure. Just still. I blinked and looked again. Gone. I kind of brushed it off. My neighborhood is quiet, but not that weird. People walk their dogs, take weird routes. Maybe someone stopped to check a notification on their phone. But that night, around 11, I heard a loud, hollow bang come from the garage. I paused, listened. It came again. Thunk, like something fell. I grabbed my phone and tiptoed to the door that leads from the kitchen into the garage. I pressed my ear against it. Nothing. Eventually, I opened it slowly, expecting to see, I don't know, a raccoon maybe? But the garage was empty, clean, still. Even the box I thought I heard falling was sitting perfectly in place. No wind, no vibration, nothing out of place. And yet, something felt wrong. That feeling you get when someone's behind you in a dark room, even if you haven't seen them. I closed the door and locked it. Tried to sleep. Didn't. I've always enjoyed my alone time. I work from home, graphic design mostly, freelance gigs that pay just enough to get by. Most days I wake up around 9, brew some cheap coffee, sit in my chair by the window, and scroll through emails while my cat, Nico, naps near my feet. It's a quiet life. Simple, predictable. I thought I liked that. That night things felt different. Not in any obvious way, just something was off. The air felt heavier, like there was pressure in the room. My curtains swayed gently even though no windows were open. I dismissed it. I always do. Around 6 p.m., I had just finished up a client project when I noticed something outside. Through the blinds, just barely visible in the fading light. A figure. Not close. Not moving. Just standing. A little too far from the sidewalk to be someone passing by. I stared for a moment. Blinking. Adjusting. They were motionless. Thin frame. Hoodie. Maybe someone waiting for an Uber. I looked away for a second just to grab my phone. When I looked back, gone. No footsteps, no door slamming shut, just nothing. Weird, I thought, but nothing to panic over, right? Later that evening, I threw a frozen pizza in the oven, popped on a show in the background, and settled on the couch. I kept glancing toward the front door. Every creak of the house made me sit up. I told myself it was just the wind, the fridge cycling, the usual stuff. Then, bang. It came from the garage. A heavy thud. Like something dropped. My heart skipped. I muted the TV and sat there, breath caught in my chest. Another noise. Lighter this time. Like a creak. I stood up slowly, grabbed a flashlight from the drawer. I didn't turn on the lights. I don't know why. Maybe I thought staying in the dark made me safer. The garage door was locked. I unlocked it, slowly turned the handle. Nothing. Boxes untouched. Tools still hanging on the wall. But it smelled different. Like sweat. Or something sour. I stood there for a full minute, just listening. When I finally turned around to head back in, I swear, I heard breathing. Not mine. Slow. Deliberate. Close. But when I turned my light, there was nothing. Only Nico, sitting in the hallway, tail twitching, staring past me at something I couldn't see. I didn't sleep much that night. I tried. God, I tried. But something about the air in the house felt wrong. Heavy. It wasn't the smell anymore, that had faded. But I felt like I was being watched. Even with the blinds drawn, even in the dark. The next morning, I chalked it up to my imagination. I've always been the overthinking type. I made myself some coffee, sat down at the kitchen table and scrolled through emails, trying to get back into my work routine. But my head wouldn't clear. I kept glancing at the windows, at the hallway, at the basement door like I was waiting for it to creak open on its own. By mid-afternoon, I decided to step out and get some fresh air, just to walk around the block. I needed to shake that strange fog off. And when I came back, something was off. Nothing obvious. No open doors. No shattered glass. But you know when something in your space has moved, even slightly, like the energy shifts? That's how it felt. The throw blanket I keep on the couch was folded differently, looser, and one of the cabinet doors in the kitchen was just barely cracked open. I always close it. I stood there frozen, just staring at the gap in that cabinet door. Like if I looked long enough, something would peek out from the darkness inside. Of course, nothing did. So I closed it. Firmly. Told myself maybe I left it like that. But I knew better. That night, I double-checked every lock, turned on every exterior light, even locked the door to my bedroom, something I've never done before. Still, I couldn't sleep. I laid in bed, eyes open, watching the faint light from my phone charger blink against the ceiling. And then, just past 2 a.m., I heard it. The microwave. I swear to you, I heard it beep. One single chime. I sat up slowly, barely breathing. Then another beep. I grabbed my phone. I didn't want to go out there. Every fiber in my body told me to stay put, to wait it out. But something about hearing that familiar sound, that second chime, snapped a wire in my brain. I opened the bedroom door, crept down the hallway, and peeked into the kitchen. The microwave door was open, and inside was a plate of food, still warm. I hadn't cooked anything. My chest was pounding. I felt like I was watching a scene from someone else's nightmare. The room was dead silent except for the gentle hum of the fridge. I walked slowly toward the microwave, reached out to shut it, then paused. On the plate was a slice of pepperoni pizza from yesterday, from my fridge. Someone had heated up my leftovers. Someone had been inside my house. I didn't touch the plate. I just stood there, staring at it. The pepperoni glistened in the light. The crust was slightly crisp, like it had just come out of the microwave. But that wasn't what disturbed me. It was how well it was done. Not too hot. Not soggy. Not overcooked. Just right. Exactly how I reheat pizza. Exactly how she used to do it too. A chill ran through me. I backed out of the kitchen without a sound and locked myself in my bedroom again. This time I pushed my dresser in front of the door. Not because I thought it would stop anyone, but because I needed something. Anything. I didn't sleep that night, not even for a second. When morning came, I checked every inch of the house again, under the bed, closets, even the attic. Nothing. I told myself it had to be some kind of mistake. A break-in. Maybe. But I couldn't explain why nothing was taken, why no signs of forced entry, why a slice of pizza was the only thing left behind. The day dragged on like a bad dream. Work was impossible. I couldn't concentrate. I kept looking over my shoulder, checking the hallway, jumping at every creak. And then, that evening, I got a text. No name, no number, just 4 words. Did you like dinner? I froze. I stared at the message so long that my phone screen dimmed and went dark. When I unlocked it again, the message was gone. Vanished. Like it had never been there. I didn't reply. I couldn't. My hands were shaking. I started wondering, am I losing it? Is this some stress-induced hallucination? Is someone messing with me? But no. Because later that night, after I locked every door, checked every room, and finally collapsed into bed, I found something else. Right before I turned off the light, I noticed it. A note. Folded. Slid underneath my pillow. Handwritten. In pink ink. Just like she used to do. It said, "I miss you. You still sleep on the right side." I stared at it for a long, long time. My mouth was dry. My stomach churned. I sat on the edge of the bed, gripping the note in my hand, trying not to vomit. That handwriting. It was hers, no doubt. I hadn't seen her in over a year. We'd broken things off ugly, messy, the kind of breakup that stains you. We hadn't spoken since. I had no idea where she went. I never wanted to. But this felt like a trap. I didn't call anyone. I didn't even think to. I just laid back in bed, wide awake, heart pounding in my ears, note still clutched in my hand, staring at the ceiling. And as I laid there, paralyzed in the dark, I started to realize something. She'd been in here before, more than once. She knew exactly where I slept. She knew how I heated my pizza. She knew how to stay invisible. She was getting closer. Not just in distance, but in intent. I didn't leave the house for 3 days. I told my boss I was sick, that I needed time. He didn't ask questions. Thank God. I think he heard the edge in my voice. Or maybe he just didn't care. Either way, it didn't matter. I was afraid to leave because I knew the moment I stepped outside, she would step in. I spent every hour barricading, locking windows, nailing the attic shut, double-checking closet doors, taping the shower curtain open. I turned my house into a fortress, but it didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt like hers. Every time I walked into a room, it felt just a little off. A photo frame slightly tilted. My favorite coffee mug sitting in the sink, even though I hadn't touched it. My toothbrush was wet. I kept telling myself there had to be another explanation. But then, I found the Polaroids. They were inside my coat pocket, tucked neatly like someone wanted me to find them when I reached for my keys. There were 4 of them. One of me watching TV, one of me brushing my teeth, one of me eating cereal, and the last one, sleeping. My face relaxed, mouth slightly open, blanket pulled just to my chest. The angle was above me, too high. It was taken from inside the room. I dropped them. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stood there, numb. She wasn't watching me. She was living with me. Every door I locked, every hallway I checked, none of it mattered. She knew when to move, when to hide. She knew me better than I remembered knowing myself. And then, that night, just when I thought it couldn't get worse, I heard something. Knock, knock. But not from the front door. It was inside. I turned my head slowly toward the bedroom closet. The knock came again. 2 soft taps. I stood frozen, back pressed to the wall, heart thudding so hard I thought I'd pass out. The closet was just a few feet away. I stared at it. Stared back. Then, the doorknob twitched, just slightly, like someone's hand brushed it from the inside. I didn't open it. I couldn't. I just backed out of the room, down the hall, and locked myself in the bathroom. I stayed in there all night, sitting against the door with a kitchen knife in my lap, phone in hand. No texts, no calls, just silence. When morning came, I built up the courage to open the closet. There was nothing, no one, just my clothes, shoes, and a single item I hadn't seen in years. Her pink hairbrush, the same one she used to keep in her purse. I held it in my hands like it might bite me. It smelled like the perfume she used to wear. Sweet, light, and dangerous. I didn't sleep. Couldn't. Not after that. Not after the brush. Not after the Polaroids. Not after realizing I wasn't alone in this house. Hadn't been alone in weeks. Every sound made me flinch. Floorboards creaking, pipes knocking, the low hum of the refrigerator. It all felt louder, like the house was whispering to me in some language I couldn't understand. I turned all the lights on, every single one. I paced the living room for hours, knife still in hand, calling myself insane under my breath, over and over. But then, at exactly 3:12 a.m., I heard something new. Scraping, coming from inside the walls, not the roof, not the floors, the walls. I pressed my ear against the drywall. Scritch, scrap, scratch. Slow, careful. As if whoever it was knew exactly where I was and was trying not to be heard, but failed. My skin crawled. I pulled furniture away from the walls, checking for any vents, loose panels, anything. I knocked along the baseboards. Hollow. Something was back there. She was back there. That's when I realized. This wasn't stalking anymore. This was nesting. She'd made a home in the spaces I never looked at, between the cracks, behind the insulation, in the corners of the attic, below the floorboards. I sat on the couch, eyes wide, mouth dry, and started doing the math. All the signs, the noises, the missing food, the things being moved. She was living with me, and I never knew. And God, she was smart. She only made noise when she wanted to, only moved when she could hide, only showed enough to keep me paranoid, not enough to flee. She wanted me there. She wanted to watch me break, and she was winning. Then something happened I can't explain. I was staring at the wall across from me, blank drywall, nothing special, and I saw movement, not on the wall, in it, like a slow ripple behind it, like fabric being pulled from the inside. And then, a single hole tore open in the drywall, just wide enough to see through. And what I saw? 2 eyes, bloodshot, dilated, locked onto mine. No blinking, no movement, just watching. I didn't scream, I just sat there, my breath gone, frozen in my own body as tears started rolling down my face without permission. My heart was beating so hard I couldn't even hear the clock ticking anymore. I whispered, "Why are you doing this?" No answer. But I swear, I saw the eyes smile. Not the mouth, just the eyes. Like they enjoyed the fear. Like this was some twisted game she'd been waiting years to play. And then, the hole vanished. Not closed, not repaired. Just gone. Like it was never there. I sat alone in silence for what felt like hours. I was losing it. Losing her. Losing me. And for the first time since this all started, I realized something. I wasn't going to survive this. Not because she'd kill me, but because I'd fall apart first. I didn't go to work the next day. Didn't shower, didn't eat. I just sat there, knife in hand, lights on, staring at the walls. I wanted to believe I hallucinated it, that maybe I'd fallen asleep with my eyes open, dreamt the hole, the eyes, the scratching, her. But no, I knew better. She was in here, somewhere behind the walls, in the ceiling, under the floor, watching, listening, waiting, breaking me. By nightfall, I was shaking from hunger and exhaustion. I stumbled into the kitchen and opened the fridge. Empty. Not a single thing left, except for a half-eaten yogurt. But I didn't buy yogurt. I haven't eaten yogurt in years. I dropped it to the floor and backed away like it was poisoned. She was still eating, still living here, still sharing my food. I microwaved a frozen burrito just to feel something, some trace of normalcy. But the second it beeped and the light inside turned on, I saw it. Her face, for a split second, reflected in the microwave door, right behind me. I turned around violently. Nothing. Nobody there. The hallway was empty. But I'd seen her, clearly this time. It was her, my ex, the one who moved out 2 years ago, the one who begged me not to end it. the one who disappeared after we broke up. Her hair was messy, matted. Her eyes wide, manic. Her skin pale and patchy like she hadn't seen sunlight in months. She looked like a ghost of herself, twisted and stretched thin by obsession. I dropped my food. My knees nearly gave out. I whispered her name. Rachel. No answer. Just a slow creak. One single floorboard shifting upstairs. Then silence. She wanted me to know now. She wasn't hiding anymore. Because the game had changed. This wasn't about torment. This was about owning me. I don't remember much else that night, just flashes. Her silhouette in the hallway, the bathroom door closing when I walked by, the unmistakable sound of a whisper from inside my bedroom, and then the screaming, but not from me, from the walls, like something was stuck in them, trapped, wailing, banging over and over, and I lost it. I screamed back. I punched the wall until my knuckles split. I tore open the drywall with a wrench, yanking insulation out like it would free me. But there was nothing. No one. Just silence again. I collapsed on the floor, bleeding, sobbing, and curled into myself like a child. That's when I heard it. Her voice, right beside my ear. I missed you. I stared at her. Emily, frozen in my own body, heart racing so loud it drowned out everything else. She kept walking toward me, hands stretched out like she thought this was some kind of twisted reunion. Her voice stayed soft, but there was something fraying at the edges of it, something unstable. "Don't be scared," she said. "I just needed to be close to you again." I took a shaky step back, then another, and I ran. Straight down the hallway, into my bedroom, then into the bathroom, slamming the door shut and twisting the lock until my hand hurt. My phone was already dialing. 911. The moment the operator answered, I broke down. I whispered everything I could through my panic. That someone broke in, that it was my ex, that I hadn't seen her in years, that she knew things about my house she shouldn't. The operator was calm, professional. She told me officers were on their way. Outside the bathroom, I heard her pacing. Then the knocking started. "Please don't call him," she said through the door, her voice trembling now, breaking. "Please, we can talk about this. You're overreacting." I didn't say a word. She knocked again, harder this time. "Open the door!" Then silence. For a moment I thought maybe she left, until I heard her trying the door handle, shaking it, jiggling it harder and harder, then banging. Violent, desperate, but suddenly, nothing. No footsteps, no knocking, no sound at all. I crouched in the corner of the bathroom, phone still clutched to my ear, even though the dispatcher had already told me the police were close. I waited in silence for what felt like forever. And then, sirens. Red and blue lights flickered across my bathroom wall through the slit under the door. I stayed locked in until I heard the officers yelling from downstairs. I heard one of them call out my name. I cracked the door open and stumbled out, tears burning in my eyes, adrenaline crashing hard now that I wasn't alone. She was gone. Vanished out the front door the moment she heard the sirens, sprinting down the street like a shadow in the night. The cops swept the house, asked me 100 questions. I told them everything. The microwave, the footsteps, the food, the window, the night she stood in my living room like she belonged there. It took a few days to find her, but they did. She was living in a motel 5 miles away using a fake name. She had a journal full of my photos, ones I didn't even know she'd taken. Notes about my daily habits. She'd been planning to get me back for months, watching, waiting, entering my house when I wasn't home, getting closer every day, all because I didn't answer one of her texts 2 years ago. They arrested her without incident. She never fought it. All she said was, "He finally saw me."